Welcome to Basketball on Figueroa, the only podcast breaking down everything happening with the Lakers, Clippers, and Sparks. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia, and joining me today, per usual, is Dar-E-N Viziri, a.k.a. Dime Dropper. Dime, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Edwin. It's a nice Only Sparks episode tonight. And we got a pretty good one. Arguably our best win of the season to talk about. Our franchise player starting to show why she's a franchise player.
There you go.
I'm excited to talk about it. I was in the presence of the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar today, which was so random. At the Pepperdine soccer game that I was doing PA for, that was wild. And yeah, I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, always good to see Kareem. I've only seen him a couple times. Like right before, obviously he had that injury, I believe, with his hip. And I saw him once shortly after that because obviously he was getting a lot of treatment. So, and I've never really talked to him because I only saw him once. Like I was very close, but it was one of those things where probably kind of how you felt, like, well, what am I going to say to him? Like, I'm just going to leave him alone. So I didn't say anything, but yeah, always great. Again, one of the people I think is also in the conversation for GOAT that doesn't get the argument. I have not met a Jordan stan who can, defend why his 6 rings don't, equal Jordan's 6 rings. And then not to mention his high school accolades, not to mention his collegiate accolades, not to mention the fact that, he did it throughout his career. Again, longevity. He kind of has it all. There really isn't anything, he's missing on his resume. It's really just a matter of, as you know, the eras and that kind of thing, and where the sport was then versus where it's now and where it was when Jordan was taking over. But I'm like, hey, Kareem's got everything. Like, you don't really have anything over him. So, minus, of course, like Russell with like that many ridiculous amount of championships. But minus that, he's right up there. So, yeah, always cool to see a legend like that and appreciate them while they're still here. Like you said, it's going to be a Spark-centric episode. This is the fun time of the season where, like, okay, yeah, it's downtime. It's basically dead now for sure in the NBA. There's no more Olympics or none of that stuff. But it's not dead in basketball. We still have the Sparks roaring up, and before you know it, Lakers and Clippers will be back at it. But we're going to start right away with the first game being Sparks at Mystics. That's the first game after we recorded our previous pod, and this one was a tough one. Dime. Sparks lost 80-74 against the Mystics, and it was another one where they were right there, third quarter. I believe they were up 1 heading into the fourth, and then things just kind of fell apart. And it's been something, again, I always say it, like, veteran teams win games they're supposed to lose, and young teams lose games they're supposed to win. And when you're playing another team that's also struggling and you have an advantage, you should probably take care of business. But they lost pretty handily in that fourth quarter there. What did you see from this game?
A game where I felt like we're gonna get this one done. It's Washington, but you can never be so sure. The fourth quarter collapses for us this season, and we're going to get to another epic one, if not maybe the biggest of the season, have been very prevalent. Our offense gets really, I wouldn't even say stagnant, but we don't go anywhere. No one's creating anything. It just kind of shows when the game tightens up and the other team puts on their highest level of defensive effort and the refs don't call as much. We don't have players that create many offensive advantages. And obviously, the best isolation scorer is Rickea Jackson on this team, probably. And we don't really treat her as a star yet. And I also I'm going to make a point about it when we talk about other games about Rickea Jackson, the whole touches conversation, because that's been a thing that's been had all season long. And the stands of Rickea, I don't really interact with WNBA stands that much on Twitter, thankfully. I'm already caught up with enough of the toxic NBA stands, but I see the free Rickea Jackson accounts all over the place. And it's in reference to that. It's the touches and whatnot. So when we don't have somebody to give the ball to, we don't treat anybody like that go-to player, it kind of just comes down to Hamby or whoever our point guard is on that particular game, whether it be Ari McDonald early in the season or Lexi Brown if you go even earlier in the season, and now lately Odyssey. And we just couldn't score. And Brittany Sykes was doing amazing work on both ends of the floor. She was the best player on the floor this game. And It was just a putrid shooting game overall for the team. De'Erica 4 for 10. She doesn't even get in double figures. It's going to be hard with the way that we've been so reliant on her this season to win a game where she's not in double figures. Stephanie Talbot 3 for 10. Azare 4 for 12. Leah Rue 1 for 4. Crystal Dangerfield 1 for 5. Ray 2 for 7. So it wasn't pretty, and it was just another classic example of our offense going cold in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's been an issue all season long. I think, yeah, it's a combination of not having a go-to player and then not choosing go-to players. Like when the Lakers were really bad, and I don't like to use the NBA comparison to WNBA, but I'm going to do it in this moment because I'm talking more general than like player to player. But like when the Lakers were bad, the pre-LeBron year, they went to KCP a lot to close games. It was kind of, you could tell they were like, hey, we're going to go with him. Every now and then they went with Lonzo or Kuzma, but for the most part, it was KCP's the, at the time, highest paid player, 18 million. He's more of a vet. He's going to get that role a little bit here on this team. And they decided, is KCP a closer on a good team? Absolutely not. But you know what? On that team, you got to pick somebody. So I think even just having kind of a strategy like that, at least a little bit, where you're like, hey, game's tight, we're going to kind of run things through this person, or we're going to kind of let them, if they crash the car, they crash the car, but they're going to crash it. I think that would be a better strategy than this kind of, we're just going to kind of flow and we'll look for certain looks. I'm not saying they're not designing things, but again, they're not designing things towards a player. And I think with a team this young and wanting to develop some talent, you're better off doing that and seeing if they can grow and become that or not, versus not doing that, and you're losing games anyway. And I feel like that's when something that's definitely been frustrating for Sparks fans is when they're losing games and you feel like certain players aren't getting touches. I'm with you on the like being careful with stands, and there was a couple moments where Rickea definitely looked frustrated, from the lack of touches in a couple of these games, not the Liberty one, but the other ones, and that's human nature, right? That's being a competitor, and then the team's slipping away in these games, and then you want a chance, but yeah, I think that's something Kurt's going to have to work on definitely next year. I want to see an improvement on the offense and what's being run and what's happening. Obviously, the personnel is going to be very different because it's a new season, so we'll see who's here and all of that. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on that in his next season with the Sparks on kind of how he's running the offense and what he's running and who's he running it through. Because right now it doesn't feel like it, and there's just too many games where they get a bad look, shot clock violations. Or almost like a shot clock violation where there's 2 seconds left, someone just chucks a shot and they don't get the rebound, and you're like, man, it feels like we didn't get a good look, and we had the whole clock, and it wasn't one of those weird things where someone poked the ball in and we had to inbound quickly. It kind of feels like it's to our own doing. So that was definitely a frustrating loss. But moving on, we're talking about the really frustrating loss, one of the most frustrating losses of the season, losing to the Wings 113-110. Dime, the reason why this game was such a frustrating loss is because they had it in the bag. They had it in the bag the whole time until like around, I think like the 2.5 minute mark or something. They were still up by double figures and they just gave it away. Now, again, it's a combination of you gave it away and the Wings took it because you saw some really, really great play from the Dallas Wings late to kind of pull it off with 3-point shots and hitting their rebound, getting the rebounds and converting on close shots and also shutting down that offense. But still, unacceptable. Sparks lose 113-110. It's a close game, but they had that one in the bag. They should have won. Got outscored in the fourth quarter 40-18. 40. You got 40 pieced in the closing quarter. Unacceptable. After the game, Kurt Miller, let me pull up his tweet. He actually tweeted about it, and it's a minor victory because at least he's holding himself accountable. But it's like, yeah, come on, dude, like this can't happen. And he tweeted out, I'm gonna read his quote. His tweet here, quote: "As a coach, if you own 13 conference titles in 13 years, 2 WNBA Coach of the Years, the best record in the W over a 6-season stretch, and 2 finals appearances, you better own when you are having a poor year. I own it. Need to be better for our young team. Hashtag Sparks will rise. Hashtag grind." End quote. So Dime, he's tweeting out of my bad, it's on me, which I do like because the best ability besides availability is accountability. So I'm happy he was owning up to it. But how did it feel watching this game, seeing it all unfold and seeing how they lost and how ugly that fourth quarter was?
It's crazy because I haven't been able to watch a Sparks game live in a long, long time. And so I'm basically watching games that I already know the result of most times. But I didn't actually check the score of the Wings game, and I avoided tweets, and I wasn't really on Twitter over the weekend. I remember seeing one tweet about Rickea being frustrated after a tough loss, and I thought it said tough loss against the Wings. But when I watched the game and everything's going so well, and we're up by 20, I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't see that right. We won this game. We had to have won this game. But I knew a run was coming from Dallas. And man, even when there were like 4 minutes left in the game, I was like, okay, I think we won. Like, there's no way we blow it now. And it was crazy because it was a Rickea Jackson 3-point convention in the first half. She had, I think, 23 points through 3 quarters. Ended up getting her career high, but only scoring 2 points in the fourth. And Odyssey was insane. I mean, she had some really solid games for the Wings earlier this season, but the way she was getting downhill and really creating shots for us was the main ball handler that day. She was getting downhill. She was running great pick and rolls with De'Erica and putting pressure on the Wings defense, and their defense was terrible throughout the game. It tightened up in the fourth quarter, but for me, we couldn't guard without fouling in the fourth. And Tiara McCowan like really took advantage of us down low and on the glass. And when Lee came out and we went with the De'Erica, Azare, Talbot, I think Rickea, and then Odyssey lineup, we just kind of got mauled on the inside by Tiara McCowan. And then Enrique, she just made big shot after big shot, and we just could not guard without fouling. But to me, what happened at the end was it got a little, and she earned it on the day, Odyssey centric. There was a play where I think she kind of was trying to turn the corner for the screen too early, and Azare got an offensive foul on a moving screen. I thought Odyssey went a little quick there. And then she kind of rushed in for a layup and missed. And then before that, Uzun poked the ball away. So just a rough stretch for Odyssey. But it's tough when someone has a bad stretch like that, but you wouldn't be in the game without their incredible performance. I just think we don't give it to Rickea enough at the start and at the end of games. And I am going to make a point here that I've noticed in these last 2 games. We have blamed Kurt Miller. We have said the coaching staff has not done a good enough job of getting her the ball late and stuff like that. But you know what? I mean, paying a lot of attention to these last 2 games, not every time down is Kurt Miller calling a set. And he's a pretty vocal coach. He's on his feet a lot, so you can really tell when he is. But a lot of our plays, as you said, is free-flowing. It starts with either a high ball screen or a pass into the high post. And sometimes when a lot of the plays are broken up, it goes to Hamby in the high post, and we have a dribble handoff on the other side. And a lot of our possessions start like that, like either a high ball screen, that leads you to a pick and roll, but the pick and rolls in the W are not like the NBA where you're like getting a good shot within 5 or 6 seconds because the spacing is so great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they allow so much more perimeter contact in the W, getting over screens. So like a lot of times we'll get over that screen and it'll go to Hamby, and then we'll do dribble handoff on the opposite side to get the defense. Like clearly Kurt Miller emphasizes get the ball moving to both sides of the half court, which is great. But as you said, sometimes it just feels like it's very equal opportunity when we need to be looking at Rickea because we're already losing the games anyway in those situations. But I've noticed, as I'm saying, all those free-flowing situations, the players don't really look at her in the fourth quarter. They treat her like a rookie to me. And I'm not saying they do off the court. I'm just saying on the court, there were moments where there was like 5 on the shot clock against the Wings and the fourth quarter, and Rickea was trying to post up in the middle of the lane, and De'Erica might have thought like, there's only 5 on the shot clock. It's not going to give her enough time to work. But she shot a 3 that wasn't like a wide open 3. And Rickea's working for post position. And there's also times, and I don't know if De'Erica's doing this on purpose or she's just playing her way, but there'll be times where Rickea's trying to post up and De'Erica will set a screen for the ball handler that's on the same side that Rickea's trying to post up. So essentially it's like, we're about to run a pick and roll, Rickea, go to the other side of the court. And I just feel as though the players need to do a better job of getting her the ball. But it's a lot of it's like an ego thing to me with any level, NBA or W, deferring to a rookie in crunch time. Because this is not the NBA where it's like, oh, we're gonna lay the whole floor out for Paolo Banchero to develop, and it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? We're all in with Paolo. It's just not. It's not like that. I don't get that sense in the W, except for with Caitlin. Really, they've really given her the keys. But like, look at JC Sheldon on the wings. Like, she's a very good player, but she's had to work for playing time throughout the season. And so, and she was picked higher than Angel. So that's what I think. I really think the players need to do a better job, Edwin. I'm starting to think that Kurt Miller's getting too much heat a little bit for this.
Yeah, you're getting into some of that's why, that's why we do the pod, because you're so good at like getting into that high level, the basketball nuance, right? And you're absolutely right. I saw it a lot in the Liberty game, where it was a combination. It was in the Liberty game, which we'll talk about later. I noticed a lot in the second half struggles with players in the post. I think in general, I think the Sparks struggle passing inside the post, not the high post, but the low post, the block. They struggle. They struggle making the passes. They struggle finding Derica when she's open. They struggle when Rickea's open. And when they get the ball in there, how many times have you seen like Derica have to reach over, like lean over, not in her spots? They just struggle with the angles. And I think also some of it's because they don't want to make the pass to begin with. So that when they finally kind of concede, all right, let me pass. Derica's fought for position 2 or 3 times already. She moved here, she moved to the left, she moved to the right, she went back to the middle, she asked for a screen. It's a lot of work for no effort. And you know how bigs are when they get discouraged, they'll close it out because they're like, you know what, you're not even going to give me the ball, and stuff like that's got to be worked out. And I think Derica can also, because she has to work so much for the ball sometimes and getting in her spots, when she does get it, you're right. I don't think she thinks, okay, let me pass this off. She's thinking, almost like a shooter does. Okay, I finally got the ball. Okay, now I'm gonna do my thing, and my thing is moving to my actions, getting to my spots, or asking for my own screen so I can go downhill, move to the side, whatever I'm looking for. I'm not looking to pass back, and I'm definitely not looking to pass inside unless the defense collapses and it's like an easy layup for Lee or something like that. So I think you're right. There's definitely like a hierarchy. There's politics and hierarchies in both leagues, right? But in the NBA and a particularly bad team, like you said, they might give the keys a little bit more in Charlotte and in Detroit. In the W, minus, like you said, the anomaly that is Indiana, they don't do that. Like, you're going to have to earn it, and you might have to over earn it, especially early on. They're just not going to give you that unless there's like a literal mandate by the coach being like, hey, man, if you're not passing the ball there, I'm not playing you or something like that. And again, Miller's also trying to win, so it's a combination. He's also trying to look for the best look, and he might not have that confidence in his rookie either. So he might not be saying anything because he's like, is it really better? Maybe he also agrees with Derek. Actually, I'd rather you kind of work through it and all that. So it's a combination. It's there's enough blame to go around. The players on the floor have to give her that chance. The coaches have to make that a thing, and Rickea has to also ask for the ball more, fight for the spots, and keep fighting. I know it can be frustrating to do all that work trying to free yourself up, and then you don't get the ball, but you can't put your head down. You got to go back next possession, do the same thing. And again, a 40-point quarter in the fourth, that's unacceptable unless you've won by so much that it's garbage minutes, and that's not what happened. So yeah, definitely one of the most disappointing losses, and in a season that's had a lot of them, I think this one kind of takes the cake. All right, so move on to the last and final game here, the third game. Finally, Owen Sparks beat the Liberty. Of all teams, they beat the literal best team. This league can be so fun. They beat the best team on record. Now, they didn't have Jonquel Jones, and that's a big factor. I think they got Jonquel Jones, they win this game. But even with Jonquel Jones, you would probably still pick the Liberty, right? You'd be like, fine, they'll win by like barely double digits instead of, blow them out. But no, they didn't win. The Sparks won 94-88, and it was a good win. The Liberty wanted the game, especially I could tell like in the second half, Sabrina was looking like, if I can just hit a couple of these threes and get them going, like we can get this win. The Liberty are one of the most focused teams in the W. They're on a mission. They're hungry for that title. They haven't got it. They got the top spot. They're definitely not. They did not. I don't think this was a trap game in the sense that they didn't take the Sparks lightly. I think they just got beat. They were one player short, and they just got beat because you could see throughout that third and fourth quarter, they kept trying to go on that run. But this time, I think the Sparks did a way better job of kind of handling those couple moments when they went like that 7-point burst, the 4-point burst. They shut the door. They called timeouts. They stayed disciplined. In the fourth quarter, Kurt kept calling timeouts the minute he felt like it might be going the other way. And they played the foul game. They tried to find a way to kind of squeeze an upset here, but they just couldn't. And again, another fantastic game from Rickea. She had another good game, scoring 19 points. She was absolutely sensational. Again, the threes, she was on a heater in that first half. And Ray Burrell, a player both of us have been clamoring to get more minutes. She finally got the run, and lo and behold, 18 points in 23 minutes, 7 for 8 from the field, 3 for 3 from the free throw line. That's exactly from the 3-point line. That's exactly what I think Burrell can do if she gets more minutes and more opportunity. I'm so glad that she got them in this game. And Dime, how'd you feel about the first win in a long time? They've lost 7 in a row. It's the first win, and it was against the Liberty at home.
Arguably the best win of the season. I mean, it's either Liberty without John Quell or Vegas
Aces.
without Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray. I might lean Liberty because Benijah Laney Hamilton was back too, and the Liberty this regular season have been significantly better than the Aces. Are you still, by the way, before I continue, are you still on the Aces are for sure still the team to beat, and you're still confident it's going to be them and the Liberty because they're showing some real, I don't want to say weaknesses, but some chinks in the armor right now. The Lynx beat them like twice in the span of a week.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the Aces. It's not looking good. I think that, as you know, winning a title is hard. Winning 2 titles is even harder. And we haven't seen 3 titles in any kind of American Basketball Association since the early 2000s. So there's a reason for that. There's a reason, despite the super teams and all that, no one can do 3 straight because it's so hard. It's so hard physically. It's so hard mentally. Talk about skill and luck. Can you not have a major injury for 3 years in a row to your star players? And even when you do you have the mental fortitude to keep staying on top while other teams are hungry and have never, tasted glory? And I think you're seeing a little bit of that with the Aces right now. They clearly have the best player in AJ Wilson, and that's the only reason why I still feel like, okay, I wouldn't pick them if they never won a title. I would not pick them, but since they're back-to-back champs, I'm going to respect it. But right now, my favorite would probably be the Liberty at this point because it just looks like the timing's up here. But again, they're still a champion. They're still a top team, and they're still going to be hard as heck to beat in a series. It's going to be very hard. Whoever, kills Goliath is gonna have to be one heck of a David because I haven't seen it yet. And if I know Asia the way I know it, she's like, okay, cool. I got all 40 piece an entire series, and I'm gonna dare you to beat us. And they still have plenty of great assets, but I think the guard play there has been a little bit suspect. I think the defense has been suspect, and it might be time. I think they focused so much on running it back, they did not make marginal improvements that could have refreshed the team. And I think when you have a title team like this, you do need to add a little bit of new blood to kind of keep things fresh. They added players last time like Candace Parker, even who's a superstar, but veteran leadership, hungry to prove they can do it somewhere else. Just a new face, new blood in there. I think it was too much of the same minus a couple rookies, and I think that's also part of it. They just don't have anyone who's a rotation player who's never had that kind of success, and it's kind of the same squad. And those teams that have been knocking on the door for a couple years, they're here now. And I don't know. I think I can't wait. Every Aces playoff game is going to be like, I'm watching it. I don't care who they're playing. It's going to be entertaining because to beat them is still going to be really, really hard. But I think at this point, the team to beat for this season would probably be the Liberty. And the Lynx, like you said, they're right there. I think they've won like 9 in a row. They're coming too. Gabby Williams joined the Storm. So it's going to be an interesting playoffs for sure. But I still have the Liberty as favorites, but I still say, hey, until you beat the Aces, that's the champs. What do you think about that?
I think it's pretty fair. No love for the Connecticut Sun, though, who are one of the most stacked rosters in the league.
Yeah, I never believe in the Sun. Shout out to Kurt Miller when he was there, but I'm just like, I don't know. They always it just never happens for them. So I feel like they're one of those teams. They're gonna be known like as an all-time like, oh man, that team was so good. Like they never won. You're gonna be like, I'm sure they won one, and you're like, no.
Let me ask you, what do you think it is? I mean, they added Marina Mabry, which is a huge piece. Do you think it's the lack of Alyssa Thomas is amazing, right? But she's not the type of number one option that you're like, go get a bucket.
Yeah, that's the problem. When games get tight, when we're down to a 1 possession, 2 possession game with 5 minutes to go, I don't think they have the playmakers to bring it home. Whether that means close the door or actually open it up for us to walk in. I think the only way they win a championship, they don't have to be complete dominance. I think they'll have to be kind of up by 8 in like almost no close games, minus maybe 1. I just don't think they have the team for that. And I think they have, like you said, plenty of all-stars. They're stacked. They're really good. They're going to be really hard to beat. They always are. But eventually, a team does, whether that's in the final, the semifinal. It's been their MO, kind of the entire time. And for that reason, I've seen that so many times. It's like the opposite of the Aces. I give the Aces the benefit of the doubt. And the Connecticut Sun, I'm like, look, I've seen you be a really good team for like 5 years. I'm kind of over it. And yeah, maybe Marina Mabry's enough. I don't think she is, but she's a heck of a player, and it's definitely a step in the right direction. But yeah, that's why for me, I'm out on them. If I'm gonna be wrong, it's cool because picking against them has been beneficial for the most part.
Fair enough. As
Or,
far as back to the game,
yeah,
dude, Rickea and the way she's been shooting threes recently has been crazy. I mean, and the confidence in which she's letting it fly. It's really amazing, Edwin. Like, obviously, Rickea has gotten better at basically everything throughout the season, just adjusting to the WNBA length and size and athleticism. Now it seems like the game is slowing down for her, but it's not like we've made some crazy concerted effort to give her the ball so much more. I think she's literally just hitting her threes.
yeah.
And with that, it's like being back on the playground again after you hit a couple of shots. It doesn't even matter the playground, the gym, wherever you're playing, you hit a couple of shots and it just makes you want to go that much harder defensively. And I'm starting to see, her rotations sharper and playing better on ball defense on the perimeter. And I remember her clapping, after a stop, one of these games, I think it was the Wings game. And I'm just like looking at her body language, and it's like, it's so obvious when a player is gaining confidence. Like, I've been around the game so long, I love to see the body language. And a lot of people don't like to read into that stuff because it's not tangible. But you look at Rickea in the beginning of the season versus now, she's getting so much more comfortable. And that's not just with the shot, that's with everything. But I think the shot is definitely a confidence boost for sure, because that's one of the weaknesses, that people listed for her coming into the league and in the season is that 3-point shot. She has a solid mid-range, post game is great, size incredible, but that 3-point shot, can she catch and shoot? Well, I'll give you a stat right here, Edwin. Before these last 3 games against the Mystics, Wings, and Liberty, so before this episode of Basketball Figueroa, Rickea was shooting 29.5% from 3 on the season.
Ooh.
After these last 3 games, where she's shot 68% from 3, 13 for 19, she's now shooting 38% for the season.
Wow. That's wild.
3 games. Like, it's great to see that. And if that can improve, which it will, I have full confidence it will, as she gets more years, and I'm not even saying more years, next year, she will get more respect from the coaching staff and the players because she won't be, the new kid on the block.
Right.
And I mean, I see a star, like as we've talked about, but we're obviously as Sparks like fans and people that cover the team are gonna big up our players, our draft picks. And there's always that in the back of your mind, like, what if Rickea is just, she can get buckets, but it's not very efficient, doesn't create for others. But I can see the passing out of the post coming along. I can see all the little things coming along. It's just, we got a special talent here, Edwin. We really do. Like, she actually can pass. She's getting more accustomed to the league. She's going to be fantastic, and I'm just so happy that we picked her. With all due respect to Camille Cardouche, I am taking Rickea all day long. And Ray Burrell, you talked about it, the spark plug, constantly getting to the foul line, playing with no fear, just an energizer bunny off the bench. And to see her have 18 points, she missed 2 of those free throws that could have given her a career high. So unfortunate, but the Tennessee 2-step, Rickea and Ray Burrell. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it.
Shout out to Tennessee. Yeah, I actually love Tennessee. I've been up there in Nashville. I think a beautiful university there, and they got some hoopers. The Lady Vols have been a reckoning in women's college basketball for sure. So
we got to read a super chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Australian dollar. Shout out to my favorite midget. That's obviously in reference to a hater that referenced me today. The international players coming in have made it more interesting with Sabally and Williams, for example. Absolutely. Game is getting more global. Obviously, it's not as we don't have as many international players in the W as the NBA, but definitely building.
The percentage might be higher though, but I'm not sure. But you're right. They won't have the same one. They won't have as many because there's just more NBA players. Yeah. Okay. But I wonder if the percentage is more. The percentage might be in terms of like they're like 200 to their like 800 or whatever. It might be more.
You could be right about that. I'll say this then. Let me clarify. The percentage of really good players in the league, the international proportion or percentage is higher in the NBA. Whereas in the W, I still feel like the American women are.
You're right.
pretty
There's no
superior.
Giannis in the Giannis, Luca, those kind of players from they're still in the W. The stars are still American.
Who's
The
the
international game hasn't gone to that level.
who's your number one international women's player? Satu?
Oh, yeah, it's probably Satu. I would have to double check, make sure I know everyone who's international, but probably Satu. Yeah, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say so. Yeah,
Oh,
Satu.
he was talking about players that couldn't play in the first half of the season because of the Olympics.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Gabby makes Seattle even more of a contender than they already are. So for sure, there's definitely that. Yeah, there's an influx of a couple players coming in, and it's going to be interesting seeing how it affects the second half of the season. And yeah, the Storm are going to have something to say about that title as well. For me, yeah, this game was incredible. Like you said, Rickea Jackson's just been amazing, and she really works on her 3-point shot. And obviously in modern basketball, everyone's working on her jumper, but I mean, she really works on it. Like every practice, she's like transition three, corner three. She wants to make. I think her number's like 5 in a row before she moves to another spot, and she visibly. You talk about that body language. I'm kind of more on the I don't judge the body language too much because again I don't know these people, but when she misses it, she gets really mad and she's like oh, and she's very like animated. She's focused on hitting those shots and getting better. So she's putting in the effort 100%. So that and I think that's why you're seeing it kind of have this jump. It's that work starting to show its benefits. I remember one time I was talking to Austin Reeves about getting better because a lot of times when you hear about players getting better, it's about the offseason. In the summer, they do this, they do that. And I'm like, and I was asking him kind of, well, with the things he needs to work on in his game, is it just a matter of you'll get to it in the summer? And he was like, no, like I'm working on it all the time. He's like, I might be able to, kind of get to it in the summer, but like really you can improve during the season. Like I'm improving during the season. The summer is just like, the same kind of practice without the game. So like, no, you can improve and I should be seeing improvement throughout the year. And I kind of took them like, oh no players really told me that before. So I'm like, that's interesting. And I see players now like Rickea doing that in their season. I'm like, oh, this is what he's talking about. It's like I'm getting better every day, not just like, a few months at the end of the year when you're not watching it. It's happening throughout. And hopefully you start to see some of the benefits during the year. And then next year, it'll catapult into like a whole new thing. But yeah, I wrote about it this morning for Silver Screen and Roll. She's just been, on an absolute heater and it's been incredible. And that's a good segue to our one minor thing before we jump into the third quarter awards. I don't know if you saw it, Dime, but I tweeted it out and then I wrote an article about this. Kurt was talking about the tanking and he's like, I don't want to hear nothing about it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing that tanking word. And actually, let me go ahead and pull up his quote here because I thought it was kind of funny because even though it was a win, some people were kind of like secretly hoping they'd lose because they're like, hey, like we need those, the odds to go our way. So here, let me read you what he said here. Quote, if I have to read the word tank one more time, I mean, we're trying to get better. We're building something special. No team in this league is going to quit. The 2-year aggregate makes that silly to even talk about, end quote. And what he's talking about, Dime, I'm not sure if you know, but your odds aren't just based off this year. They're based off this year and last year. So even to tank, it's like you should be tanking for 2 years then because it's based on the percentage of both. Now, even with those percentages, because the Sparks missed the playoffs last year and this year they're at the bottom, they still have the highest percentage. They have a 44.2% chance, and the highest behind them, number 2, is the Dream at 27.6. So they kind of already have the best odds. So I'm kind of with Kurt here. Obviously, if you lose every game, it helps your odds a little bit, but that benefit versus just trying and playing your players anyway, like it doesn't seem to make much sense. There's only like eight games or so left, so it's just a league where tanking doesn't really make as much sense. Even though obviously players like Paige are coming and you saw what happened with the Fever getting someone like Caitlin Clark, but I think people forget before Caitlin, they had a Rookie of the Year All-Star in Aaliyah Boston. So it also took them a couple years. If Caitlin would have just jumped on the team without like the other players that they've been building around, she's probably still going to be great, but they might be missing the playoffs while she's great versus now, maybe making a late bottom half of the standings kind of run.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out too before we move on. De'Erica, another great game in that game against the Liberty, and she had to guard Stewie so much. 21.7 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, and a block, and no turnovers on 60% shooting, 9 for 15. I mean, her consistency level is astonishing. You're going to say something?
Yeah, yeah. Funny thing, I'm cutting you off, but that was my whole. That was the one thing I was gonna mention. They did something weird, which I didn't really like, but whatever. The Sparks, they actually had the coach and the two players at media all together. Now I didn't like it because I think it's gonna make it so I don't know. It was the first time they ever did that. Maybe that's gonna cut time, and I'm like, we need more time. But the way they did it was Kurt made his opening statement. He let the women speak, and then they left, and he did the coaches interview. So whatever, it's like a new thing. Maybe it's just a one time. But what was funny about that is because he was in the room when the women were, his players were talking. Jericho was answering a question. He mentioned just what you did. He cut her off during her interview and was like, I just want to point out she had no turnovers. And then her and Miller and Hamby had a good laugh and they literally high fived in the press conference, like, hey, no turnovers, because I'm guessing Miller also emphasizes when they turn the ball over. So yeah, you're right. You pointed out, and so did head coach Kurt Miller, that Jericho took care of the ball too, and that matters because as you know, turnovers, they're double negatives. They kill your possession and they give it to the other team. So it's like, and likely because it's turnover, fast break situation, transition, more likely to score, points off turnovers. It's just so bad when you just give up the ball to the other opposing team. So you're right. Hamby did a great job protecting the ball, and Kurt Miller mentioned it at the post game presser. All right, so
Oh, one more
let's
shout out. One more
go
shout
ahead.
out. Odyssey Sims, amazing game.
Yeah, for sure. She's an amazing player. Lucky to get her on a hardship, and I'm assuming they're going to bring her back whenever her contract's up. It's a 7-day contract, so I think it'll be at the end of like Tuesday or something. But I'm expecting her to return, but we'll see what happens there. So all right, now we're going into our third quarter awards. So far, after every 10 games, which is exactly one quarter of the season, we've given out our awards: MVP, defensive player, six woman, most improved, all that kind of stuff, and just kind of documented how it's going. And we're going to do the same thing at the end of this season. We'll also do it in the NBA, but it'll obviously take longer because that'll be more around the 26 game mark or whatever that is for the NBA. So this is our third quarter awards. So we'll start off with MVP. Dime, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. So actually, I think we have the same MVP. So why don't we do a 3, 2, 1 and say the name? All right.
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Dear
Dearica Hamby.
Hamby.
There it is. Of course. Yeah. Why even hold the suspense? It's Dearica. It's been Dearica the whole time. She did have a little bit of a flub, I think, immediately after the Olympic break, where a couple games where I'm like, 12 points, 14 points, 9 points, not her monster numbers. But like you mentioned, she came roaring back for the Liberty game, and she's been so consistent. I'm not going to judge 2 or 3 games from like 40 games and say, oh, you're falling off. So it's been fantastic watching her play, and I'm so glad she already signed the contract extension for next year. She's locked and loaded. She's good to go. They secured their current franchise player. Dime, what do you want to say about Dearica Hamby that you haven't already said?
One of the most consistent players I've ever seen for any of my teams. And she's just a workhorse. And it's just been an honor to watch her compete every night. Really, I wouldn't say she deserves better because I'm not going to say she deserves better because she's already won. She wanted to be here. She got a good payday. So she's hooping. She's doing her thing. That's all I can say.
Yeah. No, yeah, perfect. All right. So let's move on to defensive player of the year. I struggle with this one, Dime. So I'm gonna have you start off because I'm still a little little waffling here. Who do you have as DPOTY?
Also, Hamby, because she just has had the toughest assignments, has had to anchor us defensively without Cam Brink. Azare is more of a finesse big. Leah Rue doesn't get too many minutes because of lack of mobility. But I will say Leah Rue has been getting more comfortable in the low post. Talking about the body language and all that, she's going up stronger. She looks so much more confident when she catches the ball now. So that's one thing I'm loving seeing from her. But overall, it's Hamby. But honorable mention, Steph Talbot. She's a very good defender. I wasn't as hip to her game, but I think she's a very solid defender.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna abstain. I just feel like I don't really have a lockdown. I think the team in general is fine defensively. I don't think they blow coverages too much. I think they're fine, but I can't think of a solid, strong defender. Once Brink left, it kind of like just it's been a struggle for me filling that void. So I'm gonna kind of keep it blank. But the only time I've ever left it blank was like the first year I really covered the Lakers when I think like the Russell year where they were so bad. I'm just like, I'm not giving it to anybody. I put like an empty chair on my YouTube video. I was like, that's your defensive player of the year. So they're right now it's just a matter of I can't find a truly exceptional one. So I'm kind of leaving it blank. But I'm okay with Derica for sure. And like you said, Talbot's a little bit better than I think I think both of us either haven't talked as much about Talbot and her game. I think she's been a pretty respectable veteran, a player you can trust, a player who won't make mistakes. She might not electrify like some of the younger players, but super consistent. You know you can count on her and she does her job. So yeah, I like that pick. So we'll keep it there, and I'm gonna keep it blank, and we'll see who I pick. At the end of the year. All right, 6 women also struggled with. The lineups keep changing. Players are out. For me, I went with Lee because it looks like that's the way Kurt wants to go with her. She's the only big coming off the bench right now, and I think she's doing a really good job. So I went with Lee. Dime, who'd you go with as the 6th woman of the year?
Same kind of thing. It was hard to pick because so many of them have been in and out of the starting lineup. But I'm going with Ray Burrell because she's consistently been a bench player, and she's really starting to show more signs towards the end of the season that she's not just someone that is getting us minutes in this tanking type season or, lost season. She's someone that I want to use going forward next year when we get Paige.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I might go that way. If for me, it's more, even though it's not her fault that the minutes are limited. I want to see her get more of these minutes and play like this. If she plays, she doesn't have to play this good because 18 points a night off the bench is like ridiculous. But if she gives me 10, and plays 20 minutes the rest of the way, I might change my pick at the very end of the year. But right now, I'm gonna go with Lee. But I think Ray Burrell is a good one. All right, most improved. It's weird, but I'm still going Derica mainly because she's having a career year. I think other options I could have thought of are Lee because I think she's gotten so much better from where she started. And even though she's a rookie, Rickea kind of makes a case because she went from like kind of a middle tier rookie to like now she's like top 3, top 2 right there with Clark and Reese, which is wild. So those were some of my opinions, but I ultimately went with Hamby. Dime, who do you think's been the most improved player on the Sparks?
I think the most improved player. Are you saying from last season?
Yeah, from last year, generally from last year to this year, but which is why I didn't go with Rickea. But if you really want to, if you want to like make the case because of how they've improved or whatever, you can go beyond you can stay to this season if you want from the beginning to now.
I'll go with Hamby as well.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got Hamby winning a lot of stuff, which makes sense. She's an all-star. She's a max contract player, and that's why she's signed back. Okay, fantastic. So we'll leave it there for that. We'll take a look. Next time we do this will be at the end of the year. I don't know if we'll do it as the last pod after the regular season, or make it a separate pod and do whatever's going on with Clippers and and Lakers. We'll talk about that later. But I'll also bring back all our old answers and see what's changed, what's stayed different from the beginning to end. So that's going to be a cool thing to kind of look into. But all right, cool. So those are our awards. Real quick, peak performers, which is also something the WNBA does. It's just the top averages in points, rebounds, and assists. So no context, nothing, just the raw numbers, and that's where it's at. So I'm going to give you the 3 answers, and then I have one question for you, Dime, after I finish. Okay, so we got Hamby, the peak performer in points, averaging 17.8. Hamby, the peak performer in rebounds, averaging 9.9. And McDonald, the peak performer in assists, averaging 4.0. Now, Dime, my question is, obviously we are running this thing ourselves, so we can decide how we judge things. Can McDonald stay there if she never plays another game? Because she would still have the highest average, but I kind of feel like maybe that shouldn't be right, given that she'll miss a big portion of the season. So what do you think our policy should be? The NBA has their whole 63 games. What do you think our policy should be on who we're going to call the peak performer based off of games played and the highest average? What do you think?
How many games in a W season?
40 right now.
Let's go with 25 games.
Okay. So I think McDonald's already matched at 25. You said. Let me see. She might be there. So that means we might keep. She's at 24. Look at that. She has to come back. I love that. Aries got to come back because she's at 24. That's hilarious. Okay, cool. So we'll be looking on it. If she doesn't get another game, she will be disqualified. And I think Hamby would win it then. She'd win the whole thing because I think she's got 3.3, I believe, as her assist. Let me look it up real quick. Because I think when I was looking at it, I'm pretty sure that was who was number 2 for the Sparks. So that's interesting. You have her right there. She's got to come back. So let me see here. So for this year, leading the team in assists.
I could get it very fast if you want.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, it's well actually, okay, yeah, like you said, Odyssey Sims is 5.3, but like you said, she only plays 6 games. Yeah, Hamby's at 3.5.
There you go.
So it'll be Hamby points, rebounds, and assists. That's monstrous. If she leads the team in all 3 categories, that's like stupid. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, cool. So that's where we're at right now. And like you said, we'll take a look at it at the end of the season, and we'll see if McDonald's still qualifies or if that's the end for that. Okay, cool. So for upcoming games, we actually only have one because they're a little bit of a lull here. They played so many games right away. I think it was like 4 and 6 nights to start, and then they had quite a few now. Now we only have one game here to preview before we do our pod, which is Sunday's matchup, Sparks versus Dream. It's going to be at 4 o'clock here in LA, and it's going to be streaming on the WNBA app and on Spectrum Sportsnet locally. Dime, who do you have? Sparks, Dream, both teams that are out of the playoffs, but the Dream kind of have an outside chance of getting in. Who you got winning here?
I was going to go to this game, but we're celebrating my mom's birthday at my grandma's house, so I won't be able to go. I'm going to go with the Sparks, and I'm going to go with Rickea with another 20-piece because she's feeling it.
Wow, 20-piece. All right. How if your mom doesn't mind, how old is she going to be here?
Oh, and I'm definitely not giving out my mom's age online. Absolutely not.
Fair.
She would have wanted me to, but let's just say it's a big one.
I'm sure she feels great about that. It's so big he can't even say the number. It's too big. We wouldn't believe him. Well, shout out to Mrs. Well, not Mrs. Dime Dropper, because that would be a future wife. Shout out to Mama Dime Dropper. That works.
There you go.
Yeah. Hopefully she has a good birthday. Hopefully no one mentions James Harden and ruins the whole thing.
Yeah, no.
It's a moment of celebration, so we'll leave the stands on Twitter and have a good time there. So, all right, I'll have the Sparks winning this one. Another one I'll be missing just because Sunday's my day off, and I try to respect that, even though technically I'd rather be there than off. But trying to be a good worker and also not establish that, hey, we should all be at everything, even when we say we're off. So I'll be off. I won't be there. I'll either watch live or I'll watch, immediately after, the morning of or something. I'll figure that out. But yeah, I'm going to have the Sparks winning this one. I think it's a game they can win. I think that they're still trying to push and get some results here at the end as we're wrapping up. So I think they're going to get the win. This is a game that the Dream are still more beatable than some of the juggernauts, and they just took out a juggernaut. So I think I'll have them taking care of business here. All right. Anything else you want to touch on, Dime, before we head on out here?
Get on the bandwagon, people, with Rickea Jackson before it gets full, because next season there's gonna be people jumping on the wagon coming from UConn and other places when Paige wears the purple and gold. Oh man, I'm already nervous for draft night. It's gonna be, not draft night, but like, the lottery. Yeah. We should have a viewing party at Tom's or something.
We should. That'd be dope. I'm not sure if I'll be. The Sparks had, full disclosure, the Sparks had a viewing party last time that I was invited to, but again, it was on a Sunday, and I respect my days off, so I didn't go. But I wanted to. But I was like, I should be there, and I'm not sure if they'll do something like that or if I'll get invited to something like that if they do it. So I'll go to that unless it's again on a Sunday, which it probably will be because that's typically when the WNBA does it. But yeah, Tom's, that's not work. I think I can get away with that. I can justify that to myself. But yeah, that's going to be a big day because, again, as you know, just because you got number 1 odds doesn't mean you'll get the number 1 pick. It just means you have number 1 odds. So it's still going to be, the ping pong envelopes, whatever they're going to do. And people are going to still be nervous. And with players like Paige and Kiki, there's some generational talent in this draft. And this is probably going to be the biggest draft before Juju, because obviously the Juju draft is going to be like everyone's going to just want to get Juju and be like, oh, I got the arguably the best prospect since like Candace Parker and Caitlin Clark. So
how special that you just mentioned 2 top lottery picks, Kiki Riofan and Juju Watkins this season for USC. There's an
I can't
outside
wait.
chance. There's an outside chance I get to cover the team, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. Outside
Okay,
chance.
for
But
sure, for sure. Yeah,
be a
that'd
dream.
be exciting. That'd be exciting. Yeah, and it's going to be a great year. I mean, they're primed to win a national title and go on a run. They already went on a run last year. They made some noise, shocked everybody because not many people had them being such an elite program already. And Juju showed that, hey, literally not just me, but me, Mackenzie, like that was enough to make some noise. And now with Kiki there, and obviously Mackenzie's done with college ball and she's a pro now. But now with Kiki and Juju and the upcoming class, it's gonna be fun. Galen Center is definitely gonna be a place to be as well. All right,
Yeah.
so that's the end of episode 42 of Basketball on Figueroa. I'm Edwin Garcia. That was /is Dar E N Viziri, aka Dime Dropper, and we out.